Hello, the League of Women Voters White Bear Lake area welcomes you to this virtual forum for the candidates running for mayor of Lake St. Croix Beach. This forum is not open to the public and is not being live streamed. The reason for that is to ensure minimal chance of cable interruption. It is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. In addition, local cable stations will replay this forum on a schedule determined by their station. Candidate, if for some reason your internet connection is lost, please call in using your phone. I'm Liz Nordling, and I do not live in Lake St. Croix Beach, and I'll be moderating tonight. The League of Women Voters is a trusted, long-time, nonpartisan volunteer organization that encourages citizens to participate in government. Our mission is to support voter education and voter rights. While the League studies and takes stands on issues, we do not support or oppose any candidate or any political party. The goal of our forums is for voters to learn more about the positions of the candidates who will be on the ballot on November 3rd. All of the candidates for this race were invited to participate in this forum, and we have with us tonight Don Bulera. The other candidate, the current mayor who is running for re-election, Tom McCarthy, did not respond to any calls, texts, or emails inviting him to participate in this forum. So candidates will be giving an opening statement, and then Dawn and I are just going to have a conversation to answer a lot of questions that have been submitted by residents of Lake St. Croix Beach. So we will start with your opening statement, Dawn.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Dawn Bulera, and I'm interested in being the mayor of Lake St. Croix Beach. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum and adapting to the changing format. I am a current council member at this time. I view this city as a fluid entity that needs to be nurtured because it is a varied piece of our environment. Our health and well-being is vital, and residents need to know that they're being taken care of. As a council member, I have prioritized the input of the residents during each council meeting, attempting to allow the entire community to be part of the decision-making process. It is a difficult task at times as there is a lack of information sharing. It is extremely important that the entire council, the body that's making all the decisions for the city, to work as a team and to be aware of all the goings on in the city limits and with any collaboration with other cities or government entities. I hope that my open and honest listening skills will be an asset to the residents of our city. I think it's really important that our community promotes open dialogue and inclusion concerning all aspects of the city. And I cannot stress how necessary and valuable you as a resident, your input is for our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to start talking a little bit about roads. That'll be our first topic. So what do you think is the best way to finance in a timely way the plan for street reconstruction throughout the city?
Well, in the past, the city has saved up and then paid for, and saved up and paid for, using the small city grants that the state has provided. Now this year, I have had concerns that that might be something that we might not get. And if we're throwing our $94,000 that's estimated into our roads this, it might not be this year. This year it's kind of paid for, but and they budget for a 2-year plan, but we might not have any money if only that money is what is put in our fund for streets. So, that is our biggest that's our biggest spending in the city, and it is also like it's just crazy. So we do have a plan that should be defined every 5 years, and we have a very good engineer, very trustworthy, that tries to keep on top of that. But I think that since we have done a lot of repair to fix things rather than reconstruction, it might be a good thought to possibly look at, and I'm not saying that I'm the perfect budget person, but within the team of 5 and input from this residents, if a bonding might be something that we could do, because we haven't done that in many years. So that is another option. We have many options to do, but we can't discount everything that's an option for us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Roads are a big issue,
Yeah.
and so is infrastructure.
Yeah.
So what will the city do to fund infrastructure needs in the coming years? And think beyond Quinlan and roads, but water runoff, the water system.
Well, our water system is 25 years old, and it's coming up to where we might start having problems. Within this last budget, we did start a fund for infrastructure, for a savings to kind of, start putting money away, because it's going to cost a lot of money. And if we don't have anything there, we either have to talk about a bond, or we use the smaller cities loan or grants that we get from the state, which that will be taken away from streets, but it's kind of related in the sense, if we're going to do our water. So that's a big deal. And so it is we did start a savings plan. It's almost like a street, it's almost similar to the street thing, because it's all kind of intertwined. But we have to think forward versus 1 year at a time. We have to actually think more long term.
I have many, many questions from the residents about the bluffs and maintaining the bluffs. So let's start with this one. How will the city handle invasive species like buckthorn along the waterfront and in individual residents' yards to stop the spread?
It is part of being a resident of the city to be responsible for your own property. But if you're unable to take care of that, being in a small city and working with your neighbors and caring for your neighbors has actually been something that I grew up with. I've been a 4th generation. My great-grandparents had a cottage here. Grandparents, my parents bought a house in the 60s. I grew up here. And helping your neighbor has always been a very, very important thing. Even if you didn't know them very well going across town, which isn't that far, but helping the people paint their house or take care of their yard or raking leaves. So it's always been a very important thing. And I think that we're pretty good about that, because if someone's in need and a neighbor hears about it, they can make a phone call and somehow something happens. We do have a council member who came up with a brilliant idea, Helping Hands. It is not a city sanctioned group, but it is a group of volunteers who are willing to help. I know recently we did help a resident get rid of a lot of buckthorn in their yard, and it took maybe 5 hours with probably 10-15 people volunteering, and someone put it on their trailer and hauled it away, and it was a huge difference just on that one piece of property. As far as city property, there are quite a few members of the community that are willing to donate their time to use the buckthorn puller, which is actually really fun to use. I've used it often, and pulling buckthorn. But the fact is that we haven't been on task for it. It hasn't been, we haven't been really actively doing a lot for it. So I think that it's going to take some time for us to, catch up to where, it won't be as a difficult job. So it is, but I know that there is a group, with me walking around and talking to people and being part of different neighborhood groups, there is a lot of interest in helping the city take care of invasive species. We did, other than buckthorn, we did garlic mustard, and I actually made pesto out of it and shared that with a lot of people, so that was really cool. And then we just recently took care of some Japanese knotweed, which is a state, a regulated invasive species through the state, and the city is required to control it. And so that we have taken out 5 different parcels in the city proper, some in private land and some on public, and taken care of that and treated it so that it wouldn't come back. Hopefully that won't be a problem. There's another one that was along the State Road 18 that was taken care of and pulled also within the last 6 months. So it is not necessarily a city sanctioned group doing it, is actually concerned residents that are taking care of it, because we want the city to prosper and not have issues like this. But buckthorn has been around for a really long time, and it just grows like weeds. So that is, that's a tough one, because if you just go on a walk, you can see an empty wooded lot, and it almost seems like it's all buckthorn. So it is just a work in progress.
I agree. Buckthorn is a noxious weed and very difficult to eradicate. We're going to move on to the St. Croix Riverway, which is part of the U.S. National Park System. The city has a statutory responsibility to enforce the regulations that were created by the federal government when the park was created. There have been consistent situations where damage has occurred or where regulations have been violated. Do you agree with the city's apparent current practice of seeking ways to circumvent the riverway regulations? If so, why? If not, what changes would you advocate for?
I am against, I do not like that the national park, the National Scenic Riverway, is being used in the way that it's been used. To ensure that the national park is cared for, there needs to be a clear understanding of the regulations that have been put in place and why they were put in place, and how to apply them. There is no clear and concise process that the city has. There's much confusion as to how you interpret the permitting process, and it is, the oversight of the city is paramount to make sure of compliance, because we have been oblivious to the lack of oversight that we have had in the city, and it is creating noticeable encroachment, and which is like a crack in the sidewalk that needs to be repaired. This is really important. It is so there was a situation where I had to actually ask staff or people that were put in place as part of the process, you know, how they participated in a situation that had some cutting that was not within the regulations, and there wasn't any oversight. It just kind of, oh, I just checked it out after it happened. When it was all done, then I checked it out. But that is not how our city should be running. Our city should have oversight from beginning to end, from the planning stages to the cleanup. And the city staff or volunteers that have a position of like a tree inspector should be there consistently throughout the process. I also brought up that having a permit to do work is a month long is way too long, because if you just, yes, you can say, okay, I'm going to take it for this 3-day period, and if it rains, then you can ask for an extension. But having it over a month and then just continually cutting is not a good, you know, it's not being a good steward for the city or the resident. So in my opinion, there needs to be a lot more oversight, and there needs to be clear and concise understanding and written processes that we have set up to protect the riverway. Thank you.
Well, one of the residents submitted this question. This summer, it surprised us when we saw pesticides and herbicides being spread on the grassy areas between Riviera and the river bluffs. That activity seemed to violate the scenic St. Croix Riverway rules. Is documentation available at the City Hall about how this decision was made?
As far as I know, I have not received, there is no documentation. I have not received documentation. I have requested documentation. I requested a copy of the contract. I requested the schedule of how often it's applied. I received the MSDS, the Material Safety Data Sheets, and was told this is the chemical that was used. I observed spraying on Memorial Day also, which was the same time that a lot of residents did observe the spraying all the way along the bluff line, on the levee and up through past the levee. I understand that we need to control growth on the levee because it is a man-made structure that is protecting homes, and the Army Corps of Engineers says that we have to protect it, because if there's a crack, because it was man-made and not engineered, that they're not going to, you know, they're not going to cover it. FEMA won't cover it. So we have to be very stringent on that. Now, the chemicals that they used were extremely harmful. If you read the MSDS, and it is in the, I believe the other, a council member read the side effects of the chemical during the June or July council meeting. So if you're interested in that, and read all of the side effects. It's bad for aquatics, it's bad for humans, it goes into porous surfaces, which we have as the levee is, and then it goes into the sand, it goes straight into the water. It's just not good. So yes, I understand that there are applications to control botanicals, you know, any plants or trees that are growing, but there are other options. Prescribed burns are okay, and they're approved by the Army Corps of Engineers, and we are lucky enough to actually have a resident that is a licensed person that is willing to donate their time to do prescribed burns, and so yes, there were sprays. I'm not sure why we had pesticides and herbicides and going up the bluff. I understand probably on the levee part, but since this stuff is really pretty bad, pretty bad chemical, we don't need to necessarily be using it. And that's part of our re-envisioning how we take care of the city. It's easy to spray and do a blanket spray, and that's just kind of an easy way out. But if you listen to the residents, we have many in our city that are actually professional scientists who have a lot to say. If you listen to the residents and get input and helpful information, we can make a better decision on how we care for our bluffland without using the pesticides and herbicides, because we don't need a golf course, kind of lawn on our bluffland. This is a national park, a national scenic riverway.
Do you know who authorized the spraying?
I did not get that information. I have requested information and haven't been able to get that.
That's not good. So one of the goals of the St. Croix Scenic Riverway is to prevent bluff erosion and protect the views of the bluffs from the riverway. How would you reconcile these goals with the efforts to remove invasive plants from the bluffs?
There are a lot of scientific data proving that you can remove things and replace that with native species. The past, I want to say, in the past, the practice has been just to cut it down and just get rid of it. But when you clear cut and take away a lot of the greens, be it invasive or native, if you get rid of it, that causes a lot of erosion. So you need to be very, and that's why where oversight is very important. You need to have people who have knowledge to say, this is an invasive, this is a native, this is an invasive, this we have to remove. We can pull it, or we can do a prescribed burn, or we can take care of it and eradicate. Then we can replace it with a non-invasive. And so clear cutting is just not a good practice at all, period. It just is not good. So it is going to be time consuming to actually go through and do that. But as I said, we have a great number of people in this community who are interested in helping with that if they have professional guidance, and we do have that available and at our fingertips for free, because they're volunteering their time, which will in turn save us a lot of tax dollars, instead of hiring an outside company to pay them thousands of dollars to take care of something that we actually have professionals and with the knowledge to do that. So you can do that, and it's very, it's very doable. It will take time, but it is a doable feat.
So what is the process when city officials make decisions that allows private parties to cut vegetation down on public property? Is the documentation available at the City Hall about how these decisions were made?
The process is you either go to City Hall or you call City Hall, you ask for a cutting permit. It should be that then two tree inspectors, I believe in 2011, the council said that two had to be there. Two city tree inspectors need to go to the site, check out the site with the person who wants to do the cutting, and go through the process. That has been lax. And then the tree inspector is supposed to be there and make sure that it was done the correct way. But that has been lax, and it hasn't always happened. The right processes haven't been followed, and the oversight hasn't been there. So there is no really documentation. It just says the permit was issued on this date, and then the tree inspector and city staff sign off on it when it's finished. The only time that there is an issue is if residents make an issue and question it and wonder why this was done.
If elected, how would you change that?
Well, I certainly wouldn't be issuing very many permits, and it would be with a lot of oversight and working closely during the process of cutting, and in the planning, during the process, and for the cleanup. It would be much more oversight. There was an instance where native oak and cherry were cut, and you know how long oak grows. And if they're this big, that takes years for it to get this big. Those were just cut. So if I would work with the council as a team, not just by myself, but we would work as our group entity, and we would make sure that the processes are followed the way they're supposed to be done, so that we don't lose the native species and create an erosion problem and bring in more invasive species just because it's there's nothing to protect the soil, and the first thing that grows there is an invasive. So I would work very, very hard at taking care of the bluff.
So no members were appointed to the city's Environmental Advisory Commission this year. Should the commission be reactivated?
That will be my first official act with the council's approval. I believe that the Environmental Advisory Commission is so vitally important for our entire city, even because it encompasses the entire city green space, not just, Parks does parks, and there are, 3 parks, the riverfront, and then the ball field, and then our strip along the river. But the Environmental Advisory Commission would encompass the entire city. It helps residents with their private green space and the city green space, and part of the professionals that I was talking about were on that commission, and they were doing very, very good work. And I voted against disbanding it because it is so vitally important because of our proximity to the river. So that would be my first big jump.
Thank you. We're going to change the topic now. It has become progressively more difficult over the course of the last few years for the average citizen to participate in the city's decision-making. Information about issues under discussion for adoption as city policy or amending existing policy is difficult to access and poorly distributed. What steps would you take to open up these processes and to encourage meaningful resident participation?
Well, just get my little participation from the community is more important sometimes than other things. I mean, if I was hired by the residents to speak for them, the entire council was hired or voted in by the residents to take care of the city. By not sharing information or limiting the information that you are giving, or not having a website that's navigable. I mean, I can't even figure out how to get to where I need to get sometimes on our city website. It is very difficult. Minutes are not updated, they're behind. The newsletter doesn't provide the minutes anywhere. I used to get the newsletter just to read the minutes, to know what's going on. When people do not have, there are a lot of elderly people in this city that do not have computer access and are unable to leave their home, and they don't even have cell phones. So their access is the newsletter. Providing the financials, providing the minutes, those are really important for the newsletter, to be informational. Right now, there's not a lot of substance in it. There's a lot of advertising, there's little here and there, but the minutes and the financials are missing. And that is something that quite a few, and when I was running for council and now that I'm running, that is a big deal to people. Not everybody is on this technological stuff where they can get on the computer and do and do the computer and do their smartphone and that kind of thing. The other thing is, it feels like a lot of the decision making is done extremely fast. We want to get in, talk about it, and vote on it immediately. I really think that a topic should be discussed, or an idea should be discussed and brought up. Then there should be discussion and maybe some input from the staff, and maybe we should find out about this or this or this and get some information. Then that should be put into the newsletter, because the newsletter is then put to print after the council meeting. Then it should be out there and say, okay, the council is discussing this. If you have any input, email the city. And then within that, we should have a workshop. If we think that we need to have more involvement for the residents to come and brainstorm with us, because they're the ones that are being affected, not just the 5 people that are up on the council. The entire 1,100 people are being affected by this, so we need to have their input. And then if it comes to that, we've decided that we think that we've come up to a good solution for whatever the topic is, then the next council meeting we could take it to a vote, But we need to slow down the process so that we have input. The other thing is that they put a limit, a 3-minute limit on public comment, and sometimes people can't get all of their information that they want to present out in 3 minutes. And when staff is up there dinging a dinger, it just makes me feel uncomfortable that we cut people off. There should be more of a comfort level that you should be able to talk about your concerns, or your kudos to something that happened that was good. So that is the other thing. Also, in the past, if we're going to decide, if we have to vote on an action item, the information is not presented for people to show up. They don't know that there's a lot of stuff that people don't even know what's going on in the city. So we need to be better at presenting the information, like I said earlier, a minute ago, by getting out that information to the public so that they know what we're doing up there, because not everybody can make the Monday night meeting. They need to be able to know what's going on in the city with different avenues.
So how would you promote and sustain transparency and accountability and integrity within the local government?
To be open and honest, and just because I'm mayor doesn't mean I'm a one-person show. I need to work as a group of 5 to make decisions, and by talking to the residents. There are so many people that walk in this city, you can come across so many people and you get to know so many people. And there have been times where I'm just out in my yard and people say, what's with this issue? And and then I have to, so being available, and I have said on almost every single occasion of meeting someone the first or second time is, you have something that you need to talk about, my telephone number and my email are right on the newsletter or on the website. You can call me anytime. I've worked in some different jobs, and I have a thick skin. So you can yell at me all you want, and you can tell me what you think, and I'm not gonna be upset, because that's what you hired me for, and I need to know what you're thinking. So I guess I can only say, if I make you feel comfortable enough to come to me and talk to me, that's the integrity and that's the transparency, because I want you to know what's going on. I don't want to be, I want to be thought of as somebody that you can approach, and not feel like you're going to have any retaliation or anything because, you told me something and you're angry and you think I'm going to get upset about that, because that's not how I think my position on the council should be, or anybody else on the council. We should be approachable.
So what do you think the role of the mayor is?
Well, I am only 1/5 of a pie. The mayor, we have a weak government, so I have no more power than anybody else on the council. We are equal. The only thing is that I have this extra little title, and I might, like, knight somebody, or give a speech, so, in representing the city somewhere, or doing something like that. But my role is to work as a team player. My role is not to make decisions on my own. My role is not to be the queen bee. My role is to be part of the team and to collaborate with the council members, with state and county authorities, or entities, to work with the Middle St. Croix Water Management Organization, to just to be part of the conversation with everybody that is involved in anything, be it the state or local government. I mean, I can't make decisions, and I shouldn't make decisions on my own.
All right, we're going to change the topic a little bit. The city has spent a considerable amount of tax dollars to convert city ordinances to an electronic format to be posted on the city website. The process has dragged on for a number of years and is still not completed. What steps would you take as an elected city representative to expedite that process, to bring it to a conclusion, and to verify the accuracy of its content?
Well, because this process has been taking quite a few years, and we've actually put in extra money last year to continue the process. I feel that we don't have enough resources allocated for this process. I believe there's only 2 people right now who are working on it, but I don't know if they're actually what they've been doing in 6 months because of the COVID. But I don't think that that's enough support, and to actually get this done, I think we need to make sure that the staff has more support and give that to them, and have a plan for an end date, because it just kind of says, oh, it's going to happen, but we never seem to have an end date where it's going to happen. And if the staff is overwhelmed with other things concerning the city, then we need to set up a committee with a few members, could be 10, I don't know, to make sure that we get this process finished, because it's taken far too long. So to sit down with staff and the other person and just say, okay, we need to change how we're doing this, because you need more support, obviously, because it's not finished, it's not coming to completion. So we need to help you with that. How does this look? How are we going to get this done? And as a council, we need to sit down and have this conversation.
So in a small community like ours, when city employees depend on elected officials for their jobs, how can citizens be assured there is a thorough and continuous record of city officials' decisions?
Well, there should not be city officials' decisions other than what's in the council meeting. Those are the times where the council makes decisions. So it is inappropriate for any person to make a decision without the entire council present. So that should be presented in the minutes so that we know that that's accountable. I also, there should be a weekly report, and it might not be a council member's what they're doing, but a staff report. These are the things that were really important that we had to be taken care of. And I'm not talking about paying the electric bill or paying the water bill. I'm not talking about those things, but we had issues with a water main break. So this is what we had to do to take care of it. We just need the council to be apprised of everything that goes on in the city to make sure that we know and the proper channels are going through. So because we are the governance, it's not just the staff and a couple of people that might know what's going on. The whole council needs to be apprised of everything that's going on. And within that, then that information will get out there to, that should be shared with the public so that they know too. Oh, something happened down there and we're playing telephone with the neighbors. And so we need to be able to have the correct information for what our city is taking care of.
So what are your thoughts on enacting an independent ethics commission to oversee city staff and council in order to curb the issues of retaliation, harassment, conflicts of interest, abuse of positional power by elected officials in our community?
I feel that it is a very good idea. I feel that sometimes elected officials do need to be held accountable for their actions, and to make sure that we have integrity and that the residents aren't in fear of something that they might say or an action that they might do would be construed as inflammatory to an elected official, and feel and be afraid to do anything and voice their opinion. That is an autocratic. that is something that we shouldn't have in our democracy. And if there should be an ethics committee, that would be fine, because if you're not doing anything wrong, then you have no fear of doing anything wrong. I mean, if you are doing everything that you're supposed to do correctly, you shouldn't be afraid of having an ethics committee. So I'm fine with oversight like that. I have no problem with that.
So what do you feel has prepared you to run for mayor?
Well, I ran for council because I had questions about what was going on in the city. And I wanted to learn about why the things happen in our city. So as a council person, I have done continuing education. I go to, I think I've only missed a couple of planning commission meetings, maybe one parks commission meeting. I was a liaison to the Environmental Advisory Commission. So I try to go to every single meeting I can that can, has anything to do with our city and decisions concerning that. I also go to the Lower St. Croix River Water Management Organization as an alternate. I go to those meetings. I'm a committee member for the Lower St. Croix Valley Yellow Ribbon Alliance. I attend various League of Minnesota City, Washington County, and State of Minnesota informational sessions, anything that might affect our city in any way, or the River Valley, or anything. So because I feel education is important, and the more you know, the more you know. So I can't be a good council member or a good mayor if somebody asks me a question and say, hey, what's going on with the bluff land up there, taking care of 13th Street with the Water Management Organization? What's going on with that? Why do we have to do this? And if I don't know the information, then I look like a bump on a log. I don't know. I feel like I'm not doing my job. So I think that is really important to have continued in education. I usually approach residents if they're in their yard, or if I'm on my bike, or I'm on a walk, and I always ask about their input. Do you have any concerns? And I said earlier, I tell them, you can call me anytime, you can email me. I have no problem with that. I've been working in the public eye for many, many years, and I collaborate with a lot of diverse groups and help them facilitate what their organizations do. And I feel that I can work with groups of people and help get to the goal that we're trying to do for our city to make us a success. So I think I bring a strong ethic of inclusivity to the office of mayor. That's what I think I do.
I think we're going to say that was our last question.
Okay.
And so if you would like to do a closing statement,
sure,
you could do that now.
Great. Well, thank you for this opportunity, Liz. I really appreciate the time and the energy, and it's late, and it's a Monday night, that you do to create this forum and do this for other cities so that the public can voice their questions and hear what we have to say. I am disappointed that we didn't have the other candidate, because then we could have rebuttals and such, but that's something different. So, when I talked about transparency and talking about bringing integrity, it's, step one, bringing up the discussion question at council meeting. Step two is discussing things, the ideas, making sure everybody understands, and gather staff input and anything that we might have to do for future discussions. Communicate through the website and the newsletter to make sure that the public knows what we're thinking about and help, Then hosting, step four, hosting the workshop where residents can be part of the brainstorming. And then step five, voting on an action item if that's what we decide that we'd like to do. I know it sounds kind of elementary that I have to explain steps like that, but I believe too many corners have been cut. And so we've kind of lost a lot of the process of our government. So I'm committed to be your mayor, and it is not my goal to rush into the first council meeting with a big to-do list and change everything that's been put in place. We have a great city, and we have a lot of wonderful assets, and we just need to tweak and re-envision some of the processes that we have. And a priority, as I mentioned, is hearing what the residents want, what they need, and what council needs to do to function well. Another priority is to reorganize the Environmental Advisory Commission to support the necessary work that is needed to make our city a success. In addition, continual work to protect our community, and be it the residents, the city, or the private environment, or if it's the National Scenic Riverway that we have a portion of. I personally have been committed with a long-standing group that strives on honesty in all our affairs and always working towards progress and not perfection. And I thank you very much, and I hope that I get your vote on November 3rd or tomorrow or whenever you vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawn, for coming forward to run and for speaking to the voters about the issues. Thank you to our viewers for watching and for your interest in being informed voters. We'll put all of our forums on our YouTube channel, and you can find links to the recordings for all of the candidates' forums on the LWV White Bear Lake Area website, which is lwv-wbla.org. You can request an absentee ballot now on the Secretary of State's website, which is minvotes.org. If you need to register to vote or update your registration, you can also do that online or when you go to vote. Make your voice be heard in the general election by voting by November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you very much.